Hey, everybody. Grant Miller here, Miami Community News. Today, I'm so excited to have Javi Perez. I knew you when you were the principal of South Dade High School, and I met you through baseball coach Donnie Harvey. Before I go on, every time I say your name, every time I think of Dave Westbury.
Yes, sir.
I didn't bring it up now.
Don't bring it up. You're gonna make me cry, man.
Yeah,
you're gonna make me cry.
So we'll get to what we're here for. But Dave Westbury, I met him 1978. He used to coach football.
Yes, sir.
Youth football.
Yeah.
And so he was a great person. Great person.
The greatest human being I've ever met in my life. He had a huge impact in my adulthood, to be honest with you. I met him as an adult, but what I learned from him and the passion and love that he had, forget about the game of baseball, for helping people. I've never met anybody like him.
People would look at him and go, he played baseball?
Yeah.
But all right, let's go talk about you. All right, so you're running for school board. I want to know a little bit about where were you born? Where were you born, first of all?
I was born in Havana, Cuba, 1972. When I was 6 years old, we left and we went to Madrid, Spain. We lived there not too long. If I remember correctly, maybe a year or two. And then in 1979, we got here to Miami.
Okay, what elementary school did you go to?
Well, when I got here was right before the Mariel boat lift, maybe about 8 or 9 months before. So I started, we lived in the Shenandoah area. I started at Shenandoah Elementary.
Okay. Because you're in the education business. How many years you in the school?
28 years in the Miami-Dade County Public School System.
Okay. Who's your favorite teacher in elementary school? Tough one,
elementary, well, elementary is tougher, but I tell you who my favorite teacher was, which was in middle school.
No. We're going to get there.
Okay.
Elementary.
Miss Player.
What year? Or what grade?
It was either fifth or sixth. That was at Coral Park.
Okay. Middle school or junior?
Junior high, Rockaway Junior High.
Who was your favorite?
Mr. Endahar by far.
Why?
Number one, man, the guy had a Corvette. Think about it. The guy drove to school every day in a Corvette. You never got to see that. But he taught social studies, and he was just the nicest individual. Regardless what type of kid you were, whether you were an outstanding student, you were not, you were helpful, you were not, he always took time, and made sure that assisted you in any way. And after I became a teacher, actually, I went back and visited him and told him that he was a big reason why I became a teacher.
By the way, I know Mrs. Tall, Mrs. Octoloni, Mr. Swicky, Mrs. Smith, Mr. Drake. Those are all my elementary teachers, so I remember them. High school, which high school did you go to?
I went to Coral Park Senior High School.
Favorite teacher?
My favorite teacher at Coral Park was another tough one. He's no longer with us, but it was our coach. Coach Brumfield, Terry Brumfield, who
he was a legend.
Legend.
Bill, was Mr. Mim the AD there then? Coral Park?
Who?
Mr. Mim? No.
No.
That was before you.
Yeah.
So Blumfield, he coached baseball.
And then actually him and I worked together as assistant principals many years later.
Okay. Where'd you go to college?
I went to Florida Memorial. Played baseball there for 4 years.
They just won the national title.
Yeah.
HBC.
That's right.
This past season.
With Tino Burgess, one of the guys that I coached a little bit when he was in high school as well. He's their head coach.
They just got recognized by the Miami-Dade County commissioners.
I saw that.
Yeah. Okay, then you went there for 4 years?
I went there for 4 years. I played a year of independent baseball in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And then I realized that, hey, I had a 4-year degree. Baseball wasn't going to be my thing as far as playing. So I took a job with Miami-Dade County Public Schools and started coaching.
Where?
My first job was at Phyllis Miller Elementary.
Wow.
Biscayne and 85th.
Yeah.
Right around there. Elementary school. And I had never been in elementary school. That was my first job.
Okay, so you taught there.
Taught there and was coaching baseball at St. Thomas University at the time.
Who was the coach then?
Manny Mantrano.
And
a legend.
What they've done, the baseball complex is beautiful now.
Beautiful. And actually they're upgrading it even more this year.
The new president.
Amazing.
He was a former AD.
Correct.
The president of Barry was a former AD, and that's why their sports are building because they're trying to build community up there.
Consider myself a fantastic principal, former athlete.
Yeah. So let's get to. All right. So you went from Miller to where?
To Jose Marti Middle.
So you went from North Dade to West Dade.
That's right. Well, to Hialeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I was coaching at St. Thomas University, and I was living on campus.
You live on camp at St. Thomas?
Yes.
They housed you.
They housed me. I was part of my deal. You know, I didn't make a lot of money, but they paid for my grad school. They housed me in their
Whatever. In
their law dorms. And so it was a lot easier to get to work, get back to practice. So I did that for a few years, and then I got my first break as a head coach at Southwest High School.
Okay. Are you married yet?
I was engaged.
Okay. So Southwest High School has great history.
Great.
Average baseball player, knee problem at Southwest, walks on at FAMU.
Hey, the Hawk.
Yeah, he grew up down the street from here.
It. Field's named after him.
Yeah, but it was a great story because he really wasn't great then. People think, oh, he was a stud then. No, he developed into a great athlete.
You know, that's what I've heard, and even speaking to him, and our great friend Dave Westbury actually was a team MVP when they were in school together.
Wow.
How about that?
Incredible. Okay, so you coached at Southwest for how many years?
4 years.
4 years. Okay, so then did you move? Then you were living in West Dade? Where were you living?
I was actually living in Westchester at the time. I had just gotten married. And, you know, listen, I thought, like most people, I was going to coach college baseball somewhere at a major university. During that time in the summers, I was going to Cape Cod, Massachusetts.
To coach?
To coach. And I got a job there.
How old were you then?
25, 26.
25 coaching. This is not independent. This is the top college baseball players in the country.
And Catuit and the Cape. Amazing. Probably the best experience I've ever had.
And your fiance stayed here?
Well, I had just gotten married by then.
Okay.
So she would go up with me in the summer. She was a teacher as well. So she had summers off, and we go up in the summers. So during the few years I was there, a lot of offers started coming in. I started talking to some schools. But I realized that my last year in the Cape, my wife was pregnant with our daughter.
How many children do you have?
2.
Okay.
So my wife was pregnant. This was probably around 2004, right around there. And I realized that most college jobs that I was interviewing for were going to pay me less than I was making as a teacher here. So I started thinking, I said, wow, I'm going to have to move my family somewhere that we're not familiar with and not going to have any help, especially with a child.
In a little town.
In a little town.
Not like Miami.
Not like Miami. And I said, probably what's best for my family is for me to go back to school, get my master's in educational leadership, go into administration, and forget about coaching.
By the way, just a little footnote. At 21, I was coaching at Columbus baseball under Jim Henry, Bob Lewis, and
great baseball man,
yeah,
Jim Henry.
I was 21. We started freshman. I coached football then. They brought freshman baseball back because they wanted me to stay. And that's 1978, 79. I'm still friends with most of the players on that team, and I had the same dream of going, I want to coach college baseball.
John Barbado played for you?
No. It's funny, I coached against him. I'll tell you a John Barbado story. This is 2 years before that. I'll tell you a Barbado story. But I wanted to be coach baseball. So John Barbado, 1975, I'm coaching. Okay. All-Star game, Howard Palmetto against Kendall Boys Club. And we're losing to this team. Barbados on the mound, striking everybody out. He gets hurt. Our chance. They haul him to the hospital. They take him to the Baptist hospital across the street. It's our game. We're going to win now.
That's it.
3 innings later, Barbado comes back. It wasn't that major injury. Comes back. 1, 2, 3, like 3 innings, and he beats us. Man. So the Barbado story. His father was a hell of a football coach too.
Really?
Yeah. All right. So you come back. Then you coach where after that?
After that, I opened up. So I went back to school to get my master's. I realized that
at St. Thomas.
Actually, I went to Nova.
Nova.
I realized that coaching baseball at a place like Southwest was going to be probably wasn't going to be fair to the kids and myself and the school if I was going to school coaching. I mean, Southwest has always been very, very competitive. So I decided to take a job at John A. Ferguson. Had just opened up.
That was a miniature college. It was so big. How many students was it? 5,000, 6,000 when they opened?
Well, when they're about 4,000, 4,500, right around there, yeah. So I decided to go over there, but back that first year, we were only 9th and 10th grade.
Right.
So it was a lot smaller, and we only had a JV program. So I was able to do that since it was a JV program, went back to school, got my master's in a year.
In master's in what?
In educational leadership, to be able to go into administration in the school system. And then Ronald Reagan opens up in Doral. And I get an opportunity to go there and be what they called at the time an administrative assistant, kind of
right.
Doing administrative work while I was learning. And after being there for a year, I got an assistant principal job at Miami Edison.
What year?
Oof.
Was Sean DeKnight there as a teacher?
Maybe. Yeah. This was probably 08, 09.
Edison.
Edison.
What's interesting about Edison that people don't realize, every other school is English and Spanish. At Edison, it was 3 languages.
That's it. Correct.
And to administrate a school like that and to teach a school like that, when people were coming and only speaking Spanish, people already knew Spanish.
Correct.
The administration.
You were used to it.
But when Creole came in, not French.
No, Creole.
It was those were tough years for this school.
Absolutely.
So, am I correct? It was 3 languages. 3
languages. Great community, though. Great community. They really valued education. The parents of the students coming from their country, being here, and they wanted obviously their children to get a great education here, and it was a really good experience. After that, I went to Alapato Middle. And from there, I went back to Southwest High School, but now as an assistant principal.
And then you went to South Dade after that?
No, actually, my first principalship was at Miami Springs Middle. That was right out of Southwest. I got hired at Miami Springs Middle. I did 2 years there as a principal. And then I got a phone call. I've always wanted to be a high school principal. Once I went into administration, I knew that if I wouldn't have gone through my accident, I would have still been at South Dade as a principal.
So you became South Dade. You were there how many years?
4 years.
That's interesting about South Dade. All your schools are interesting, but South Dade, it is such a mix of kids. This is not like, people think of South Dade, it's this type of kid or this type of kid. You have very wealthy families that go into South Dade.
The farmers are extremely wealthy.
But they are not, they don't show it. The kids don't know it.
That's right.
And then you have the poorest of the poor.
And you have African Americans and you have Hispanics. And you know what? They all get along. All the children there really get along. It's what probably you would remember this, community schools. Those don't exist anymore because, cost of living, people move, they transition in and out. South Dade, you go back 5 generations. And, the grandparents went there. The great-grandparents went there.
And that's why they're going.
Correct. And there's no questions. If our family's from here, you're going to South Dade.
Yeah. So after at South Dade for a couple of years, you're coaching your son's baseball team at Tamiami
Park.
Which field?
Actually, it was a makeshift field that they made for T-ball, right next to the batting cages, right along 117th.
Near Swing King.
Right next to it, correct. And I was actually, believe it or not, you're going to get a kick out of this. The game's going on, right? And a gentleman walks up to me, dear friend of mine. Guess who?
Who?
David Espinosa's dad.
No way. So, by the way, Swing Kings are doing great, by the way.
Absolutely. I speak to David probably once a week.
I don't have a choice. I listen to David once a week. I don't talk to him. I listen to him.
Well, I listen to his dad.
Who's a hell of a handyman.
Absolutely.
All right, so David's father walks up to you, talks to you.
And, he saw me. He was driving by. He stopped because he saw me. And I've known him since David was in high school. And we start talking. And so right at some point during our conversation, my son's up to bat.
This is T-ball.
T-ball. So they were 5 years old. I tell David's dad, his name's Elias. I go, Elias, that's Jordan now going up to bat. And we start looking. He grounds out, third out of the inning. Like, I guess most 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds starts crying. So I start walking towards him. And the coach waves me off and says, Hav, don't worry about it. I got it. I'm gonna sit down and speak to him. I said, perfect. So I stay speaking to Elias. And the inning starts.
Now the other team's
right. So now we go to the field. But again, 5-year-olds, my son was playing right field. He stays in the bench talking to coach, and we start the inning without a right fielder. 2 minutes later, car comes in through right field.
Through where your son would have been.
Yes, sir. How about that?
Wow. All right. So you get hit. How many weeks were you in the hospital? How many months?
Over 4 months.
You recover, and then
26 surgeries.
26.
3% life. 3% chance of survival.
Well, only the good die young, so we know you're going to be here for a long time.
That's it.
So you get back, and you start walking. You go back to when did you go back to work? How soon? How late?
So I went back to work.
You didn't have to go back to work.
I did not. You know, they gave me the option to stay home, collect disability, you know, fully disabled. But I was like, are you kidding me? This works. I have to stay active. I've seen people that retire, let's say, and stay at home, don't do much, and they don't last very long because there's no quality of life. You know, if you don't exercise the brain,
right,
you're not going to be able to, you're not going to be able to sustain anything. So I said, no. As soon as, I'm doing better physically, I need to get back to work. But I tell you what, the thing that helped me the most, believe it or not, everybody pretty much in Dade County Public Schools donated sick days.
Wow.
I'm talking about, I had 4 years of sick days that I could have taken off.
So fellow employees, non-people that you knew?
Correct. Administrators, employees, custodians, security monitors, you name it, they did it. I had 4 years that I could have taken off. So after 2.5 years, almost 3 years pretty much, I decided, hey, I feel great. I need to get back to work. And I did. And I returned those days back. And it was a blessing because at the end of the day, that was the last piece of my recovery that I needed to be able to be where I'm at today. And I think to a certain extent, I'm better than where I was before my accident in certain aspects of my life.
All right. So you open a business after you got back to school board. You're in the office.
We opened a business. So
what is that business?
When I was in the hospital and probably 2 months in, I was already doing better and I started physical therapy. Believe me, I wanted to do the physical therapy and I was excited about doing it, but I didn't have the energy. I couldn't do it. So between my wife and my best friend who's in the medical field.
Who's that?
Rene Ramirez, he's my business partner. They convinced my doctor to check my testosterone levels because they felt that I was too weak and there was no way.
Who's they? Rene?
My wife and Rene.
Okay.
They convinced my doctor to check my testosterone level because they felt that something was off. And when they did, now mind you, I knew nothing about this. They checked me about 4 times because my levels were less than 5.
And what should they be at?
At my age, anywhere from 800 to 1200. And I was at less than 5. So they checked me 3 or 4 times and they put me on a program. And then I started seeing the improvement, right? Not only physically, but mentally. The depression was gone. I was a lot more positive. I had the energy to do my physical therapy. So at this point, I couldn't read yet. I couldn't concentrate. I couldn't read. I would stare at a magazine, at a book, and I'd just see letters. So I told my wife, I want you to read everything you could find on testosterone therapy. And she started, every night she'd read to me a couple hours.
You're at the hospital? You're
at the hospital.
what rehab were you at?
So after I first went to Kendall Regional. I was there for 2 months, a little bit over 2 months. And then I went to Baptist for another 2 months for rehab. And my wife slept in a chair right next to my bed the whole time I was in the hospital. She sent the kids to her sister's house. And that was another blessing, believe it or not, because she fought with doctors, with nurses, and she made sure.
You had somebody there.
Absolutely.
All right. So you get back to work. You open a business. To help people.
That's it.
So have you been going on, do you go do talking? Do you do a lot of speeches?
Do I do a lot? I don't do a lot, but I do. I've done quite a few. I do. When it comes to motivational stuff, I've done a lot of with athletes as well. But more importantly, I've done a lot with people going with similar situations as I went through. People that have been injured at work, people that have had accidents, even people coming back from the war. And I've spoken to them. I've spoken at their retreats. I've spoken at some of their events. And believe it or not, it helps me as much as it helps them with my recovery.
All right. So I'm going to try to weave this through. You don't have a hole in your swing. Do you still get hit? You can hit the curves?
No, right now I couldn't hit a curveball, man. Maybe a fastball, but not a curveball. My legs can't bend that much.
You've been at so many schools as a teacher, as an administrator, baseball coach. Again, you were at different schools. You know, you went from Edison, 3 languages. You went to South Dade that people don't realize.
10 different schools I've worked at.
So many different schools. Why will that make you a great school board member?
Well, I'll tell you what, I mean, as far as the schools, I've seen a little bit of everything. I've seen some of our highest performing schools to some of our lowest performing schools. But at the same time, I've worked with all kinds of people at every school that I've been at, meaning different jobs. I've been a security monitor. I've been a teacher. I've been an assistant principal, a coach, a principal. I work at the district now, at a district office. I understand what it takes to make a school successful. When I got to South Dade Senior High School, South Dade was the lowest performing school in the district, the lowest. There was no high school performing lower than South Dade. And you know what? I didn't have a magic wand. I didn't have, the formula, the magic formula to fix it. You know what fixed it? Conversations with people, being visible, having standards for the kids, for the community, the parents in the community and the community members, for our employees, but also everybody understanding that I was willing to do any job that they were doing themselves. Just because you were the custodian or the cafeteria worker, if help needed to be done, I was there to do it.
I want to give you my tidbit. 1980, I'm working for Gallo, Eddie Rodriguez. My first day on the job, just after I left Columbus, he hired me to run the football program.
At Boys Club?
Yeah. He says, Grant, I want you to go shovel some mess over there. Way over there. I go, oh, what? 2 minutes later, Eddie Rodriguez, Gallo, was shoveling it right next to me. So I learned that lesson.
Yeah.
Well, exactly what he says. You got to do everything everybody does. So that's a Gallo story. Still to this day, 42 years later, I totally respect this guy, Eddie Rodriguez.
I do as well. But I think too, Grant, baseball taught me a lot of this. For instance, my recovery. People tell me, what you went through, how you've been able to come out of it. But you know what? In baseball, how many times are you successful in baseball? Not many. And when you weren't very good, like I was, not very good, you're going to be, in the short end of the stick a lot of times. So you learn to deal with failure.
Well, a multi-billion-dollar baseball player is one out of three hits.
That's it.
And baseball players learn how to, struggle through those two other times, whatever it is.
Deal with failure.
So I see the experience, 10 or 11 schools, different levels of schools, will make you, hold on, school board. I think these things will make you a great school board member. Now, school board members, not everybody knows exactly what school board members do. They make policies.
Policies. That's it.
The superintendent does what you guys ask, correct?
That's it. So there's 9 school board members. Superintendent works for the school board members. But a lot of people, you talk to them in the community, even in schools at times, and they'll tell you, well, you're passing laws, or school board members make policies. So there are laws, and we put things in place to make sure that the policies that we make are followed correctly.
How many schools are in the district that you're running for?
Well, there's over 90 schools when you count charters as well.
Right. In
District 7.
There's 90.
With charter schools, there's 80 something, correct?
And charter schools fall under you guys, correct?
Absolutely.
People don't realize that.
People don't realize that, but we don't manage charter schools. The district does manage 2 or 3 charter schools in different areas of the county. We oversee certain policies from the governor's office when it comes to charters. So a lot of people don't realize that as well, but we do have an office in downtown that have to do with charter schools.
The election is in
August of next year.
1 year from now.
1 year from now, 10 months.
And you're planning to knock on doors, see people, work the district, correct?
Tell you what, I bought me a golf cart, and I am going to see 80% of the doors in my district in my golf cart. I have a trailer. I'll take it to the different neighborhoods because I want to have conversations with the community members, and I want to hear from them what they feel we're not doing correctly. And at the same time, I might be able to interject and say, well, this and this we are doing, but maybe you haven't heard about it. But I want to have those types of conversations with the people in my community, because I think a lot of times we hear things in the media, we read things in the newspaper, and I think a lot of times they're put out there because they're sexy, they create a buzz around town, but a lot of times they're not happening in the school system.
Well, Dade County Public Schools, you went there, I went there. Great things could happen in public schools, and we need to get them back on track, certain things.
Absolutely.
And it starts with the adults, then the students, then the teachers, administration. I appreciate you running, and it's truly an honor to see you.
Thank you.
If you have any questions, reach out to Javi Perez. You have a great day.